Good afternoon. My name is Sam. It's 12:05, and this video is focused on introducing the ABBA framework. I'm trying to provide a format where somebody coming in virtually to work and help online can follow a simple path that we ascribe the name ABBA, because you're going from the A as an existent condition, which we're equating to nothing. So at first, we establish that nothing is and will always be until we take an action. So A is, B is a choice. B is a graphical indicator of a verticality, which we're using to symbolize standing. So when I stand, I attach myself to an object, and the lowercase b is an image of that construct. So we're asking people to go on an ordinal sense and accept that we have two choices, 0 or 1, nothing or something. And that one thing is, if you're going to engage, you're going to stand, and that indicates as the lower B. From B, we go back to A and acknowledge the link. I recognize that we left out the self-reflection, which is B to B. So when we see that we stand, I reflect so that I have an entity posted and others can see that I be standing. And we post that on the group, we post it on the calendar, and then we list it to indicate those efforts that a person engaged in. So when I'm working virtually, I stand through the entity of my event, which is a package of my effort. So the A goes to B, the B self-reflects, establish that it does complete that endeavor to seek virtual standing, and then it goes back to A to recognize the link from where it was sourced. So we go from 0 to 1, 1 to 1 in reflection, and then 1 to 0 in reflection, where the terminology of reflection from the American spelling is with the C, which is recognizing that which is reflected as though it's a 180-degree reflection in a mirror. But when we go to the stimulus response, we want to put that space in, and the C is converted to an X. So it's a reflex that we hope to habituate, where we recognize that things that happen from a habitual ordination, they come from a reflex. It's from A. So just as we come from A to B, when we stand as to be and reflect, we have to go back within, and that becomes a reflection of A, which oddly enough is Abba, and that's the Hebrew for father. So we stand as if we are, in this case, a son or a daughter. We individuate and we self-reflect. But in that reflection, we see that there's a nature and a pattern. And the nature is usually ascribed to mater, Latin for mother, whereas that which comes over time is an echo of a pattern, which comes from pater, which is father in Latin. So we establish that because the nature is visible, whereas the pattern is less so. It's visible from a reflection, but it's a painful recognition that we have to look within to see that which we saw from without. So we saw it when we came through that path, but when we became that, we failed to recognize from that source. So I suspect this is where you make the relation and link to honor thy mother and father, because within each person is inherent and implicit the nature of the mother and the pattern of the father. And this is still at the level of the self, so that the process of posting events, objectifying the efforts, packing your efforts, and then reflecting upon it becomes a self-referential reflection that initially posits that reflection that is a C-based reflection. And when we delve deeper, we find out it is actually accessible to reach that level of the X. And the X is relating and linking the prior with the future and the origination of the past perfect and the past real. So we're giving a construct to a hierarchical relation as well as a temporal relation. So the temporal represents the time as past, present, future, and the spatial gives ordination to hierarchy, which is the ideal as being above and the real being the base, so that the actualization manifests through the center. With this construct, the very letters themselves, by virtue of where the point sits and relates on the canvas, that has a correlation to the symbolic aspect of a hierarchical symbolism that tokenizes ideal, actual, and real as a vertical orientation, and the temporal aspect or time-based access to the information that bespeaks past, present, future. And this is in the non-Semitic alphabets. In the Semitic, it's transposed so that it's right to left, but it's the same concept, and hope to get assistance if anyone is willing to look at it, which would give rise to the potential of each letter not only being a message, but being a four-dimensional orthogonal projection of a point leaving a path wherein the message is bespoken by the temporal spatial locations, so that the 2D symbol that we see is a token that relates the message that's in the letter. And since it comes from the point, we would ascertain that the purpose of the point is obviously to bring attention. We point and we seek to bring attention, and beneath that is a desire to relate. So the point has as its source of origination the attempt to relate. And when we bring that relation to focus, that focus doesn't stay in one place by virtue of time passing, regardless of effort. We need do nothing, and we could see the manifestation and progression of a symbolism being tokenized. Thank you.